discussing a particular topic, most of these questions will be covered. Okay, so on that sense, I am planning to take up this training. Okay, so other than these topics, I'll be sharing some best practices, and these all are the upcoming trainings. So you can join if you monitor or if you watch for any notification in the future, right? So we will be doing a quick session about setting up or learning DBT and Snowflake on yourself. Okay, so without ado, we will start moving upon this topic. Okay, so whenever who can attend this training or who needs who all are the target customers or target stakeholders for our meeting? So people whoever is working around a data, so either they could be a Java developer or a Hadoop related area, or Hive, Presto, Snowflake, Oracle, SQL Server, Cloud. So wherever we are working around data, no one can escape from writing some SQL queries. So if you are basic users, either you will help yourself, or we will get some help from people around us, and then we will get our needs satisfied. But instead of going to others, how can we take care of SQL needs on ourselves? So that is where we are planning to help you here. Okay, so when it comes to SQL, writing SQL query, whether we will be seeing, if you ask me, like, is it going to be specific to one database or more than one database, or generic in general, the answer would be like it is a general one. So it's not specific to one specific database. Okay, so when it comes to SQL query, the tactics are going to be very common. So either you use it for any database or anything. So if you are writing some functions, right, specific to a specific database, then you can check the syntax for that specific function, and based upon the syntaxes, you can customize your function for while writing the query. Okay, so over here, what are the basic needs for, or what are the basic knowledges that is required for writing an SQL query? So the basic knowledge is that you need to know what is a table and how tables are arranged, or what is the data flow across the tables which are present in your environment. So that is the very basic and essential one. And without knowing that, you cannot start writing a query saying then a select star from so and so table, linking this table with the other table, and do a group by or without group by. So you will never be able to do all those writing queries. So if you are writing queries without understanding the table structure or table flow, and if you encounter any issue, and if you go and ask for help to some of the senior person in your environment, obviously they will be not happy to see your current understanding of the data model or data flow or data structure. Okay, so over here, when I say data structure, it's about the way how tables are arranged in. So what exactly it is, and how the tables data model is relevant here. So how it is going to help you in writing the query. Okay, so in order to understand that, first let us try to take up some sample data model. Okay. So if you see in any of these diagrams, right, so you will see that the tables are linked using, let me open up a new tab. If you see here, you'll find that the tables are actually linked from, the tables are properly arranged. So if you're talking about this specific table, the reference organization categories, then this table is actually linked to one another table, and this is linked to 1, 2, 3, 4 tables. Okay, so because of these kind of arrangements, when you are writing a query, you should know how exactly these are, what is the meaning of all these arrangements. Okay, so the tables are arranged here, but again, what is that to interpret further on this, and how can I utilize that knowledge? Okay, so if you tell me this is the data model, then my first interpretation is that, see, if you see in these links, right? So these links says that for one record in this specific table, you will have multiple records on this specific table, because the relationship is one to many. For one record in this table, I'll have multiple records in this table, and both of the columns are actually linked using foreign key column, and which is nothing but organization category code from this table. This table is actually linked with organization category code from this specific table. So if you join these two tables, you can expect one for each and every record from this table. You'll have multiple records on this table. Again, if you talk about these two tables, the organization tables and people table, right? You'll find for each record from this people table, you'll have multiple records in this organization table. Okay, so that way you can based upon these connections, right? Or the formal term for all these things and all, it is called cardinality. But when we are discussing, or when you wanted to learn something very new, and if you get into some professional terminologies, right, you may get little confused, and that is why I'm trying to ignore as much as possible. But just to let you know that this is what you call cardinality. But how this kind of relationship is going to affect. So when you are writing a select query by linking these two tables, you can expect the outcome of the query based upon these one to many or many to one kind of relationship. Okay, so that will really play a very huge role in validating your output. So if your output is not similar to what the data model is conveying, then you may obviously identify that you are not writing the query in the right pattern. Okay, so if you talk about these two tables, right, people or customers, then again it is one to many, because this is single. This connection is single connector, and this connection is a multiple connector. So for each and every record in person table, a people table will have multiple records in customers table. Okay, so this is one of the very important one. Okay, and without knowing this, you will never able to write valid queries. Okay, so let us close this example over here itself, and let me take up another example which will help you to understand much more better way. Okay, so in any environment, right, assume that you are going into a new project, and that project is having multiple number of tables, and people are working very busy around, and you are given with some small query, and people saying that your boss is saying that, hey, we need to write this small query linking 2 or 3 tables, and try to write the query as much as give an attempt to write the query. So in that case, you are very new to the project, and you don't know how to start with and where to start with. So how can you handle that kind of situation? That is a very panicking situations for someone who is very new to a project. Okay, so I'll try to answer this question, and while answering this question, you'll find that most of our intended topics over here will get covered here. Okay, so the question is that how can I spot those 2 or 3 tables which are relevant for me? And currently we are having hundreds of tables, so either 200 tables or 300 tables. Okay, so how can I identify all of them? Okay, so the answer is that in any environment, right, you can break down or create a grouping of your existing tables and subgroup it. So if you're having 200 tables, okay, so you can find that the table can be broken down into multiple tables like this. So some of them are transaction tables, some of them are log table, error table. So I'll tell you what are these purposes of table. But I repeat, before you start writing the queries, you should understand the purposes of, or you should be able to break down the tables. So means someone trying to giving you a query, right? Instead of directly, when someone is giving you a query to come up with an output, instead of directly writing some select statement, go and ask all these questions to them. Okay, so meaning that try to ask them like what are those audit tables are there, how many audit tables are there in your environment, how many metadata tables are there, or is there any stale tables. So try to find out all answers for all these things on your own, and uh, try to do your homework or try to do your groundwork. Okay, so directly go and start writing your query. First of all, try to understand your environment. So when you say understanding environment, you are actually wanted to break down your number of group your tables and subgroup it. So how can I group and subgroup it? So the answer is that, as I told you, if you have 200 plus tables, right? And assume that you are working on a Java application, which is nothing but a kind of e-com website. Okay, so your e-com website is built up on top of using Java, and all the data that is produced by multiple customers, they all will fall into one of these 200 plus tables. So whenever a customer is purchasing, or when doing a transaction, checking out some product, or returning sales performance, all these details are stored up in these tables from the backend. Okay, so when these kind of huge applications are there, you'll find 200 plus tables are nothing. You'll find even more than that. So how can we understand the entire table environment? So the answer is that first you try to understand your application. So break down your application. Your application may be multiple features. Say for example, if you go for an Amazon website, right? So they will say that electronic kind of product, some discounted product, home appliances, or toys, or anything. There are thousands and thousands of categories. So based upon the category or some particular feature based, some different features available in your application or in your Java application, you'll find that the tables are segregated appropriately. So maybe, so if you talk about, say sales is one of the feature of your application, or finance is one of the features of your application. So they say that, the table with the table naming convention, you will be able to group those tables. So if you take any table, it will say that that particular table belongs to finance. So if it is finance, then they will start with fin underscore blah blah blah. And if it is going to be a sales table, then they'll say that yes, sale underscore. And if it is going to be HR related table, then they'll say HR underscore. So these kind of table prefixes and table suffixes are very, very important. So you will never ever found an environment without having a meaningful table naming convention. So as soon as you get into a project, the very first thing is that you take down the whole list of you try to connect to the area where your tables are. So if your database is in Oracle, try to connect to them. If it is in Hive, or if it is in any other environment, try to connect to that area and find out the naming convention of these tables. That is going to be your very, very first diagnosis in understanding your environment. So try to expand those shortcuts. So they will have that IAM or ICM. So these kind of different terminologies they will be using, and try to understand that, and try to map those meaning of the complete name of a table with your application. So then you can find that, okay, so these tables belong to this feature of my Java application or my web page, or this specific table belongs to the other part of my application. So this way you will be able to correlate or arrange your tables in a proper grouping. Okay, so this is your first one. So in this manner, what will happen? Your 200 plus tables are categorized into say 20 tables to one feature, 20 tables into another feature, another feature, another feature. But now when your boss is giving you a small task, it cannot be, touch basing all the features of the entire application. So it will be part of your application. So that way you will know that, okay, so out of these 200 tables, 180 tables are trimmed out. So you have only 20 tables to concentrate on. Again, out of these 20 tables, how will you know what are those those two specific tables I need to join and write my query? Okay, so in order to understand that, again, what you'll have to do is that if there is any subgroup possibility, okay, so we have grouped those tables 20 plus 20 plus 20, but again, if there is any subgroup, then again you can make it 5 plus 5 plus 5. So you can break down the 20 tables into 5 plus 5 plus 5 tables. So that is one possibility. Otherwise, there could be one another very critical thing, okay, so which is very, very must for you. So it's nothing but understanding the data flow of your final 5 tables or 10 tables. So in any number of any environment, you need to break down a subgroup and make your targeted 5 or 10 tables. So once you finalize those 5 tables, let us assume that it's going to be 5 table group. So the smallest possible group is your 5 tables. So and you have identified your relevant 5 tables. So now you need to arrange those 5 tables properly in such a way that these kind of data modeling among those 5 tables are identified. Okay, so how will you identify that, how those 5 tables are related, something like this? So the answer is that first you need to arrange that which table comes first and which table comes second and third and so on. So what is this first, second and third position? So the answer is that let us take a very quick example. So assume that you are having a country detail, so which is a very common example of mine. Okay, so you have some maybe say population detail. So population across the world. Okay, so you say that you have a table called country, and for each country you will have multiple state. For each state you will have multiple districts, and for each district you will have multiple town, and for each town you will have multiple area, street, and say maybe family name, and within the family name you will have you have a column called head count. So your data is actually broken down into these kind of hierarchy. Okay, so if you wanted to know the count of a particular state, then you will have to start rolling up from here to here to here to here to here and so on. Okay, so first you need to arrange your data in this pattern. So without arranging your pattern, like arrange your data in this pattern, again identifying the answer for this kind of hierarchy must be your ultimate goal. Before writing your query, if you don't understand this hierarchy of your data in your project, trust me, you will never able to get the desired output. So you must know this hierarchy. So if you go and ask someone in a technical lead or some senior in your project, right? So they will say that instead of country, they'll say that they'll take up some pharmaceutical. If your project is pharma based one, then they'll say that we have a pharma company, and one pharma company has multiple locations, and each locations will have multiple shops, and each shops will have multiple patient, and each patient will do a refill on different timing, and each refill will have these many medicines, and out of these medicines, these all are our products. And so they will say their own story, but finally you will have to boil all of them into this kind of this kind of hierarchy only. So you can consider your own story from your own project. If you're going to a project, and then again try to listen all those professional stories, but break down into this hierarchy only. So you can convert all the story into this hierarchy, and this is a very, very important one. And without knowing this hierarchy, you will never be able to make it out. So this is a very must for you. Okay, so this hierarchy is nothing but a fancy or personalized understanding of this data model. So this data model seems a little complicated, and most of us must have seen these things, but ultimately the the simplest way to understand the data model is this is the one. So if you wanted to give a small comparison of this hierarchy versus this one, the answer is that one people will have multiple organization, and they will have multiple customers. One people will have multiple customers. Then again, each organization will be having multiple policies, and each policy will have some customer policies, then again transaction. So you can, based upon your need, you can take up any one path from one to many, one to many, one to many, one to many. So that is how you will have to break it down. Okay, so once you break down those hierarchy, right? So then you can start writing your queries again. Okay, so let us stop the answer for my basic question over here. So then we will come back to this one in a while. Okay, so earlier we started asking a question, say that when we are having a very huge number of tables, how can I spot those 2 table or 3 table which I will have to use to write down my query. Okay, so that is the question, and in order to answer that one, you will have to group your tables into multiple groups, subgroups, and identify the actual group of table which you wanted to write the query here. Okay, so for here in this hierarchy, I wanted to convey you one another thing. Assume that you are being asked to find out the population of a state. Okay, so you wanted to know for each state how many I mean the population at the state level. So in this case, you will have to pull down this specific table, and you will have to pull down data from this specific table, because the state level you wanted to identify the head count. So now, what are the tables that will come as a part of your select query? So either you will have to use only this table, or and these two tables, this one plus these 2 tables, or whether we need to include any other set of tables. So the answer is that, see, because these 2 tables belong to a hierarchy, you will have to include all the intermediate tables. You must include all the intermediate tables. Okay, so you cannot directly jump this one and this one, because these tables will have common columns by within the immediate next table. So this table will have common column to join with this one and this one, and this table will have common columns to link with this table as well as this table. But we are interested in this table versus this table. So in order to complete my connectivity from this one till here, I'll have to use I'll have to jump from this one to this one and this one and all the way down here. But remember, my select statement will have columns from state table and family name table only. They will not have any select statements from all these intermediate tables. But I need it in order to get my complete a valid data. In order to get a valid data, I must join the intermediate tables at all. Otherwise, I will not able to get a valid data, which means that I will not be able to get a connectivity from this table to this one. Okay, so we'll have 2 minutes for any questions so far, and after that, if still we have any questions, we can clear it offline. So any questions from anyone?
Which tool you have used for seeing all the table in one page?
See, it depends on your environment. If you are using Oracle, it could be Toad is your development tool, and each database will have their own development tool, right? So either you use your development tool to view the whole table, or you get some documentation for listing down all the tables.
Actually, I am using a Snowflake, right? So in Snowflake, I want to see this relationship, right? So how to see that?
See, for that you need to, they must be managing any diagram on their documentation repository. So there must be some project related documentation, right? So as a part of your Snowflake, we don't have any specific tools to view these things. Okay, so you will have to get your documentation. Any other question? Any other question from anyone? See, this is a very important thing. Okay, so without, if you don't understand, try to look into the recording again and again, and you may not get the complete, you may not digest the complete knowledge in one go or in the live session. So you'll have to come over here again and again to understand this thing. So I quickly reiterate whatever we have discussed so far. In a very in an environment where we have hundreds of tables, if I wanted to spot those 2 or 3 tables, how can I do it? The answer is that break down the tables into multiple categories and boil down to the smallest group, which means based upon the features of your application, the features of your or how your data, based upon how your table is receiving data, try to understand the application or the business and trim down the unrelevant tables. And finally, you will come to a small group of tables where you have 5 or 6 tables, and out of those tables, you will have to understand how the hierarchy of those tables are must be. So you should the example for arranging hierarchy is that you'll have to see these kind of things. So for one country table, one record in this country table, I will have multiple record in my state table, and from one record in my state table, I have multiple records in my district, and so on. So this is how you will have to arrange the hierarchy. And if you mess up with this kind of hierarchy, your output will completely will become wrong. Okay, and moreover, within this hierarchy, you will not be able to pull your records from one table to another table, leaving behind some intermediate tables. You must join these tables. Okay, so without, though you may not be interested in the data in these intermediate tables, you must join these tables. And in this category, if you talk about the people and their customers and their customer policies, right? So you may be interested in how this column from this people table, maybe you can say that people and the transaction. So if you are interested in the number of people and their current transaction of the customer policies, then you may be pulling columns from this table plus this table. But you must include, or you must use customers table, customer policy table in your from class. So in total, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 tables in your from class. Though you are interested, or your select class will have columns from these 2 tables, from people and transaction tables. Okay, so that is the that will form your select class, and all these 4 tables will form your from class, and your where class will be having join for these 2 tables, and join for these 2 tables, and join for these 2 tables. So this is how you will have to write a query, or this is how your select query will be forming based upon a small requirement where you need to pull data from people table versus transaction table. Okay, and these the columns from these intermediate tables are optional. If you want, you can pull it down. So you can add it to the select class. It will not make any data invalid. So we are already linking in the proper sequence, and you can include columns from these select from these intermediate classes, intermediate tables. Okay, but without linking these two tables, you cannot jump from this one to this one. And if you wanted to know all these intermediate tables, you must understand the sequence. So from here, I can say that this for one people table, we will have multiple customers, and one customers will have multiple customer policy. For one customer policy, we'll have multiple transactions. Okay, so this is how I have identified my required tables to be used in my select query. Okay, so this is one very important thing. And now, once you identify these hierarchy, you can write some sample queries and then show it to your boss and say that, okay, so is this the right way of linking the tables? And then once it is done, then you can, once you write this kind of partial query, you can add more complexity, or you can develop your target query from here. Okay, so this is one way of, this is one important thing which I wanted to share. And other than that, I wanted to add some more points to segregate your table. So when I mentioned that when I used to mention multiple times that when your environment is having hundreds of tables, how can you segregate that? So the very first tactic is that you break down your tables or group your tables based upon the features of your actual application, your front-end application. So that is one way of segregating the tables. And other segregation tactics is that, see, in any environment, you will have some log table. So what is this log table? So a log table is nothing but your applications may be generating some log data. So based upon, say if there is any data loading, nighttime data loading activity, so how many records got succeeded and how many records got in maybe, the other a good example is that in any environment you will find that your company will be receiving data for you as a flat file using some SFTP or some S3 or any other flat file mean. You will be receiving some flat files and they have to be loaded into a table. So you will find that the data load log is maintained in a normal table. So that table will have when the data got loaded, how many got succeeded, and some much more insights of the data loading that has happened on daily basis. So that is one kind of table which is very common in any environment, any project. And if there is any error over there, they will either maintain within the log table or they will maintain a separate table. So if you are having, say, 15 jobs or 20 jobs or 100 jobs, then they will not they will not maintain all those log information and error information in one or two tables. They will have multiple tables for each the data loading job, and they will maintain it separately. So that is one way to segregate the tables. And then sometimes they'll have some audit tables also. What is this audit table? Audit tables mean that if you are having any sensitive data and if they have to be modified only by very privileged people, then they will have to maintain who has actually logged in, when they logged in, and how, when, what change they did, what was the earlier value, what is the new value. So all these logging mechanisms they'll maintain, and that those tables are called as audit tables. Okay, and they have something called metadata tables. Metadata is nothing but which is not specific to one piece of your application. If you're having a huge application, so the metadata can be something which is applicable for the entire application. Say, for example, you may say that what is your current time zone. Okay, so they may be maintaining the current time zone and what is the currently supported countries for your application and state, and these kind of data which controls your entire application, right? So those things they're maintained in a table called metadata table. So they may have a own name, but the category or the nature of the data that particular table is holding is what we are discussing about. So if there is a metadata table that will have some data which is specific for the entire application. Okay, and there we have something called stale or outdated table. So what is this stale or outdated table? See, in any application, right? If you again you talk about any web application, companies may be initially coming up with version one, then gradually they'll move on to version two, version three, and keep moving. So when the application is upgrading more and more, and when the new versions are coming in, they will leave behind some tables which is only applicable for the older version. I repeat, when versions are getting increased or when keep progressing, your older versions, some tables will be only applicable for the older versions. So they will keep those tables in your environment in order for backward compatibility or any dependencies. Your JavaScript may be referencing those tables somewhere. Okay, so they don't want to drop those tables in order to, they wanted to maintain the table in order to avoid the application breaking. Okay, so what is the role played by these kind of stale tables? These stale tables will add more confusion when you are trying to shortlist these kind of tables. So they will say that district underscore, they will simply say district underscore one, and sometimes they say district underscore new. So they will tell you that hey, don't use this district table. They try to use the district new. So you will have to move this specific table over here and move your actual table here. So this is how you will have to write your query. Okay, so these kind of stale tables will add more complexity for your environment. So that is one thing which will make your life harder. So try to be aware of these kind of stale tables. Sometimes within an active table itself, you'll have stale columns. So those columns are no longer used in your new version. They are used only for the older version. So be aware of those columns also. Okay, and what is this history table? History table is nothing but they will try to, I mean, data from the active table will be moved into and another table which can be, whose name can be underscore history or hist, or sometimes they will have some date timestamp. So they will say that, data for quarterly one or Q1 2021. Q1, sorry, Q2 2021, Q3 2021. So these kind of named historical tables is also applicable for some environment. And you will have some temporary tables also. So these temporary tables are nothing but this is very common in a data loading environment. So what is this data loading environment? So if you are having, say, tens and 50s of jobs, right? So those jobs will be creating their tables temporarily before they load the data into the target tables. Okay, so that is what you call it as temporary table, and usually these kind of temporary tables are maintained in a separate schema. Okay, so that is one thing. And what is this transaction table? Transaction table is the actual one which will hold the actual data, actual business data. So if a customer is logging in, or if the customer is doing a purchase, the product list and what product they have chosen, so all those details are actually stored up in these kind of transaction tables only. So these are the tables which we were talking about, talking here. These tables, right? So these are my active and actual transaction tables which is needed, which I'm really interested in writing my query. Okay, so we have seen that how to form when you are given with a small requirement in this kind of hierarchy, how to form the select class, how to form the from class, how to form the where class. So if you are having, if you wanted to link this table as well as this table, then you will have to use the intermediate tables in the from class, use the common columns in the where class, and select class will have the columns from country table as well as in the town table. So this is going to be, this is a very small requirement where you need to write a select statement. But how will you write a complex group by statement? So many people, while writing the query, they give up when it comes to writing a group by statement. Okay, so I'll give you a very small and powerful tool to understand how to write a group by statement. Okay, so but again, A group by statement can be only written if you understand this hierarchy. Without understanding this hierarchy, your group by will fail like anything. Okay. So once you over here, assume that you wanted to know the state which contains maximum population. I mean, you wanted to pull out the state which contains the maximum population in that state. Okay. So, or the highest populated state. So in this case, what we want to do is that I'll tell you what are the how to develop your query. Okay, so let me tell you, first we will write the standard query and then we will try to add group by into that one. So I'll say select here and I'll have my state name, comma, head count, and I will have to find out the maximum head count of a particular state. So these the columns of these two tables are segregated across intermediate table. So I will have to use my from class. My from class will have, let me write it in there. Okay, so here I will have to bring my state table. Okay, so I'll have to bring all these tables in my from class, and without doing that, I will not be able to do this group by. Okay, so not only group by, any plain statement itself, I will not be able to do that. So this is my from class, and my where class will have link for all these tables. And for all these tables. Okay, so now my basic select statement is ready. So from here I will have to develop my group by statement. So when you wanted to write a group by, what you will have to do is that you will have to choose what is the you will have to arrange these columns in the proper hierarchy. When you say hierarchy, maybe I can say one another thing. Okay, let me tell you. Let me say that we wanted to know the maximum state name and head count, and we will add some more columns here. We wanted to say that state name, okay, and district name, town name, and area name. Okay, and out of this, I wanted to know my head count. So if you maximum populated, maximum of head count here. So the very first thing is that we need to write this select clause based upon the hierarchy. So remember and repeat, whenever you wanted to write your group by query, you will have to choose your columns which you are interested in and arrange them in the proper hierarchy. Don't write something like this. Okay, so if you mess up with these kind of things, right, when you are approaching your boss by messing up these kind of things, then he will go pissed off. Okay, so because your state is not directly linked with the area and area is not linked with the district and town and so on. This is a very jumbled one. So arrange your column in the select class in a proper sequence. When you are writing a group by column, you must arrange your column properly. And if you don't do that, definitely your group by will go messed up very badly. Okay, so first you need to arrange your select class and you include your one thing we all know that if it is going to be a group by statement, I may be using any aggregate functions in some of the columns and all the rest of the columns will go into my group by class, right? So this much most of us will be aware of that. So this is what my group by class will have that. because I'm interested in only applying max statement here, and if needed, I can say that max of so this, if I wanted to add any max or minimum, right, or if I say rank of this one, then I need to remove area name from a group by. So this is very common, which most of us know that, because the group by will be having column which is not part of any aggregation applicable here. But the only thing which people very get confused is that they will not arrange the columns in the proper sequence. So over here, I'm interested in the maximum head count at the state level. But if I am including the other columns here, so what do you think my query output will be as such? So the answer is that you are doing the population count at the area level. Okay, so that is the catch here. So if you wanted to know the head count at the state level, you should remove all these things. You should remove these columns, and you should have only these columns. And if you include any unnecessary column here, your group by function will split your record into subgroups and subgroups and subgroups. Okay, so any I repeat this question again. I repeat this answer again. But try to keep a clear understanding of this. If you are interested in aggregation of a proper number, first you need to segregate your data in the proper hierarchy and apply your aggregate function on the right column and include only the columns which is based upon your hierarchy, not the unnecessary column or random columns. So if you are trying to include any other random columns, and then your aggregation will split down into multiple category based upon whatever you are linking. So over here, as I told you, if you include these columns, right, your maximum head count will be applicable for the smallest one. Okay, and if you remove this area column, now your head count is applicable only for the town level. And if you again remove this town name, now your maximum head count will come only for the district level. But there is a catch here. Okay, so when I say these two columns, I'm implicitly saying that your group by will have only these two columns. Okay, and if your group by has these four columns, right, and if your select statement is only having these two columns, then your maximum count is actually applicable for area name only. Getting the point? So if your max statement is if you forget to remove your columns in the group by, and if you removed your columns only from the state select level, then you are actually removing. You are not creating impact on the output of your query. You will have to remove or select class as well as in the group by. So always make this select and group by sync together. If you miss any one of these two things, then the impact will be directly applicable on the if you miss any columns in select class, you will get an error. And if you miss any class in the group by class, then you will find the output getting wrong, or it will get split up into based upon the columns you are mentioning here. Okay, so you try to these inputs may not be very well grasped in the very first attempt if you are very much afraid of writing SQL query. But try to understand that, try to revisit this video again and again and do your own homework. Okay, and I'll give you some quick homework for you. Once you do that thing along with this recording, you will be able to gain little more confidence. Not more confident, you will almost will be able to write any queries. Okay, so this is the tactics behind writing a group by queries. But unfortunately, you can write group by, Okay, let me put it in a different way. See, this group by statement will obviously will based upon the number of columns which is part of your group by class and select class, your outcome will either increase or decrease. Outcome or the number of records in your output will increase or decrease. So your group by will have a direct impact on your record set or the final output. But there is another set of queries, or there is another provision to write queries without where you can use group by but still without having impact on the output. Okay, so means that you can write select statement and include group by also, but your output will be something like your standard select query where your records are based upon the filter criteria whatever you are applying in the where class. So it is nothing but, they call it as analytic function. So the analytic function is nothing but they form an a syntax as like max of say maybe you may be writing like this: select let me okay, select, you will say that this specific column, right? So this column you may be writing like max of over partition by and include all these columns over here: state name, district name, town name, area name. Okay, so once and here that is the group by clause is not applicable here. So this is something like a direct select statement. So you are the number of records in your select statement will not be disturbed or decided based upon this max clause. Okay, so this max clause will be an individual one where you are again the partition or the outcome, the values of this column will be very similar to this one only. So but end of the day it will not affect the number of output. So I cannot show you an working example within a given a limited amount of time, but understand that this kind of query will have and will reduce the number of records based upon your aggregation, but this one will not do an this will not reduce the number of records in the output. So where you can use this where you can use this output can be used almost in anywhere, but this one will be very much helpful when you are trying to generate the this thing, what do you call, reports. So whenever you are generating reports, right? So if you wanted to see the maximum value or minimum value, yet you wanted to see the other records. So you wanted to see the complete record in the whole record set, but still you wanted to do some aggregation. So that way you will, that is a major use case for introducing this kind of analytic function. So try to search in the internet saying that what is this analytic function. You will find these kind of max, minimum, rank, lead, lag, and average, standard deviation. So almost all the functions that can be used in this kind of group by or whatever that is applicable here, plus some more functions can be used when it comes to analytic functions. Okay, so this is one another thing which I want to discuss. So we have discussed how to arrange the how to trim down the how to spot those few tables which I'm interested in, and how to arrange it in the proper hierarchy, then how to write a basic select statement, and then how to write a complex group by statement, and how to write a group by statement without affecting the output of my final record set. Okay, so these all are the things which we have discussed, and then let us come over here and try to find out whatever that is missed out here. So data model, 200 plus tables, relevant, transaction, connections, columns, data flow, constraint, the constraints is nothing but your joints. Okay, so I mentioned over here, right? So this table is linked with this one, and this table is linked with, so all of them are linked with the linked with the proper linked with the common column names using foreign key constraints. Okay, so I think that is very well. That is a very basic thing, right? So maybe you may not need a huge introduction for that. So we have seen this, how to construct a from class, where clause, group by clause, impact of columns chosen in select clause. So we discussed, right? So this impact is nothing but if you are including some unnecessary column here, then it will it will split down your group by or aggregation in a smaller grains. Okay, and so this is also we have seen difference between what. So this is one thing which I wanted to discuss with you. Okay, so we will use another 5 to 10 minutes to discuss these things. Okay, so what is this 3NF and dimensional modeling? What is this star schema, snowflake schema? So all these critical terms, which is very common in any data warehouse or any environment, we will see it. Okay, so further, let me go into my Excel sheet. See, the answer is that we will try to answer for these questions combinedly together from here to here. Okay. So, see, when we are developing and assume that we are having an as usual Java development, Java application or .NET application where customers come and they will use that application to do some activity, and their activity is stored in a database, and the database may be Oracle or any similar relational database one, or SQL Server or anything else. Okay, so customers keep generating the business, and the data is captured in the Oracle database. So for now, let us try to stick with Oracle. Now, the tables are actually categorized, or the table are forming these kind of relationship. And these, when I say these kind of relationship, the data is maintained in a very small sized table. So you will not find any tables whose columns are running beyond 100 columns. So maximum they may have 20 or 30 columns, and within that limit they'll try to maintain the table. So you will have let me copy this image and store it here. Okay, so this is this is the back end of your application. This is the actual tables which is playing or storing the data of your actual application. Okay, and you and the business people, right? Or when I say business people, the management wanted to improve their business. How can they improve the business? They wanted to analyze this data, and then they wanted to identify their critical customers, who is interested in my product, who is really losing their patience in using my product, and they wanted to answer multiple questions. So in order to do that, they will have to use this data and take up critical decisions in retaining the customers and improving the customers. Okay, so in order to do that, what they want to do, what they're interested in, they wanted to access this data. So when they wanted to access this data, someone can directly log into the database and start querying the data, and they can generate reports out of this. Okay, but why people are not logging into my these kind of, this is what you call it as a transaction processing system, or online transaction processing system, or in short we call it as OLTP. So why my Tableau is not connecting to my OLTP? Why my Power BI, my business object, or my crystal report is not connecting to these kind of database and generating the report? Okay, why we need a separate copy of this data, and from there we wanted to generate the report? So the answer is that companies, I mean, when you are generating these kind of reports, right, though it can be a read-only system, if you add overhead into these kind of transaction processing system, your application is bound to go slow. So I repeat, when we generate report out of these kind of transaction processing system, when a business is running or when customer is generating the data, then your application is going to become, or your database is bound to go very slow. and that is the only reason why they are utilizing, or companies are investing millions of money in terms of ETL tool and in terms of data warehousing and monitoring the jobs, generating the jobs, generating the data loading jobs, and all the necessary things that is required to construct a separate database, either which is running in the either it is running in an Oracle system or a system called Teradata. So let us assume that this is Oracle OLTP. Okay, so they call it. Okay, so what they are doing is that they will try to copy the entire data during the off business hours, when there is no or very minimum business that is happening. They will try to copy the necessary data from this OLTP system, and they'll copy into a different environment, and then that is the reason that database they call it as an OLAP, or they call it as maybe we can say that my data warehouse is running in Teradata, which is nothing but OLAP. Okay, so that is one of the many people don't understand why we need to copy this data and maintain it in a separate one, and from there we wanted to generate data. Why there is an unnecessary data copying, and companies are. I wanted to answer this key question. The answer is that your data will become very slow, which company cannot afford to it. Okay, so they use an ETL tool to pull data from here to here, and they will copy the data. But again, when they are trying to copy the data into an data warehouse, they will not maintain the same structure here. So they cannot maintain the same structure here, saying that, so this copy belongs to my OLTP and this copy belongs to my OLAP system. So they belong to the purpose of this OLTP is, your OLTP system is very good when your data is broken and maintained into smaller set of multiple smaller sets. I repeat, your OLTP will perform very best when the data is broken into smaller and multiple pieces. Your OLTP will perform very best. Okay, and when it comes to OLAP, you will try to break down, or you will try to keep the number of pieces into very minimal, and then you will be able to maintain a very good OLAP system. So again, why we call it as star schema and snowflake schema? Let me try to do one small work for you.
Sir, for snowflake tables, there will not be any relationship.
Sorry?
For snowflake tables, there will not be any relationship. The primary or any there is no interest.
See, they will not have a enforced constraint, which means that constraints will be there in Snowflake. Okay, but they will not enforce it. This means that when for generating your documentation, your Snowflake database, right? See, I'm talking about Snowflake schema, schema and star schemas. Okay, so let me tell you one smaller thing. I'll come back to your question. Okay, so see, Snowflake is a term which is used in two contexts. Snowflake is actually a database similar to Oracle or Teradata. Okay, as well as Snowflake is actually a data modeling. Okay, so for now, let us not discuss about the Snowflake database. We'll stick with only the data modeling. I'll tell you what I'm talking about here. If this data, you will have to convert it into these kind. You will have to pull the data from these kind of tables and convert and load it into these kind of tables. So the reason is that if you reduce your number of tables into smaller set, when it comes to OLAP, it will become very easy for doing joining and do the proper reporting. Okay, so this kind of smaller tables or the smaller set in any environment, in any project, if you find that the basic OLTP system will have huge number of tables. They'll combine while loading to OLAP, they'll combine the data and load it into here. Okay, and again, remember, we have separate names for the table structure that is maintained in OLAP. So the very common table structures are star schema and snowflake schema. What is the star schema and snowflake schema? Star schema, snowflake schema. Okay. So this is actually a star schema. This is actually a snowflake schema. So okay. So let me try to keep it like this. This is a star schema and snowflake schema, and most of the most of the databases nowadays they are following either star schema and snowflake schema, and very recently or within the past few years they have come up with something called a data vault schema. Okay, so the data vault, I'll tell you what we will not be able to cover what exactly data vault is, but in short, a data warehouse is either designed in using star schema or snowflake schema, which means all these data are compressed and combined together to fit into either this kind of data modeling or this kind of data modeling. And the reason for this is that the reason for going up either with star or snowflake is that it has been repeatedly proven that a OLAP will perform very best when you are converting your data from this kind of data into this kind of data model into either this one or this one. Okay, so now what is this 3NF and so on? So if your table is broken down into these kind of smaller and multiple pieces, they call it as third normal form table structure. Okay, in short, they call it as 3NF. Okay, and when it comes to 3NF, it is applicable only for the OLTP. But when it comes to OLAP, either you must go for star schema or snowflake schema, and OLTP or the 3NF does not have any standard structure like this. So they use only the standard structures are applicable only for the OLAP only. And your 3NF can be of any direction based upon your business. It can flow into its shape can be of any type. So there is no standard type asset. But when it comes to OLAP, this is what it is. Okay, so this is another very important thing we wanted to know when it comes to analyzing the data and so on. And again, the tables here in the OLAP are categorized as either dimension table or fact table. But when it comes to OLTP, we don't have anything called a dimension or fact table. Okay, so based upon your front-end application, your data will be your tables. The table name of the table will be changing, or the category of your table will be changing. But when it comes to OLAP, you can categorize table into either fact table or dimension table. Okay, so I think that brings end to our main topic. So I believe we have covered up almost all these things, right? Difference between OLTP and OLAP, and what is this 3NF, dimensional modeling, OLTP, and so on, right? Okay, so these are some best practices which I will share it along with my recording. Okay, and this is my upcoming training, and over this training we will be I'll be setting up some Matillion tool. I'll tell you like how to do this installation in order to learn and DBT and Snowflake. So in this training, in this single sitting training, we will not be teaching anything, but we will try to know how to set up these kind of environment. Okay, so once you do the setup, you can I'll share some sample projects which I have, some sample complex project which is available in the GitHub repository. Okay, and using that you will be able to learn DBT on your own. So either you learn DBT or your own, or else if I manage to come up with the DBT training, with my other commitments, along with my other commitments, then you can join in that training also. Okay, so this is what I'm planning in the upcoming thing, and we can reserve another 7 or 8 minutes to any quick questions within the topic, whatever we discussed so far.
So, can you give some highlights on the data vault actually?
See, data vault, right? So data vault actually, see that is okay. That is going to be a little lengthier one. Maybe we can plan for we can reserve the question. Any other question from anyone else? If not, then we will see what exactly data vault is. Any questions or any understanding or any doubts from which we can discuss?
So Ashok, one more question, right? Like regarding the DBT and Matillion. So you're planning to start the batch, or it's like a single sitting one? You are saying that we have a Git project, right? We can implement that, right? If I want to do that. What
No,
exactly?
actually, this a single sitting meeting is for sure. I'll share this URL. Okay, so you learn and you interpret, but I will give you, I'll help you to set up the environment, how to install Matillion, how to install DBT and Snowflake, and then I'll do some basic transformation. But interpreting this DBT you will have to give your own attempt, because when using one sitting we cannot do this project and so on. So if you need any help, right, if you need any paid help, or if you need if you are interested in guided learning, then you may join in my training, which is I'm yet to plan.
Okay. So you will help to set up the DBT, right? How to do that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yes,
the Git,
yes.
and in the Git, the project is there. It's so I'm trying to implement that, right?
Yeah, you can do that one.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything?
So similar to DBT project, Ashok, do you have any warehouse project in Git which we can convert into these things like Snowflake or any warehouse?
See, I am looking for one, but so far I have not got any complex or good to claim or good to practice project. Okay, even I am looking for one. I'm just even I'm wondering for that one. Like if I come across one such thing, then I'll let you know.
Sure.
Anything else? Okay, so let me quickly tell you what exactly this data vault is. The data vault, right? So you'll find the advantages and disadvantages of data vault versus Snowflake schema, star schema in multiple areas, in multiple sense and multiple ways. Okay, so let me try to give you a zoom out meaning of what exactly a data vault is. Okay, so first of all, they say that the data vault is actually good for agile methodology. So we will include that also. Okay, in order to make the complete understanding of what exactly a data vault is, you must be good at the currently you must be somewhat good at data warehousing concept. Then only you'll be able to understand the data vault on top of your existing knowledge. So to start with, assume that you are developing a data warehouse using Snowflake schema or star schema. Okay, and your fact table, right? Your fact table may be having data. Uh, uh, they may be having data for this kind of hierarchy. So maybe they will say that for this country, this product, and this region, this customer on this date, and one another dimension, they will say that they have purchased one. They have made some purchase of so and so amount. So this is what your fact table will hold on. Okay, so maybe we can quickly write this country, for this product, this date, time, this customer. Okay, and they have made the store, maybe store I have made purchased amount. Here made this my transaction amount. So this is a typical structure of your fact table. So you will have a country ID in your fact table, product ID in your fact table, dimension, date time ID, customer ID, store ID in a fact table, and you will have some measure saying that the transaction amount. So this is your common structure of a fact table. So any doubt in this? I don't know who asked this question about data what. So any doubt in this one? So
No.
this is how your fact table will look like, right? So when companies are trying to build a data warehouse uh, from a data mart. So initially they are having a data mart, and from there they wanted to build a data warehouse. So in this case, what will happen? Initially they may be having two dimensions or three dimensions and the transaction amount. Okay, and they say that you can add, you can keep adding one dimension after one dimension, and then you will be able to club it together. But the challenge here is that assume that your dimensions are having these kind of hierarchy. Okay, so your country, product, time are very common dimensions, but assume that your dimensions are having this kind of hierarchy. Means initially you have created a fact table with these three levels and your head count. Okay, so you have your fact table created like this. You have created your fact table like this. You have your country, state, district, and within the district you are maintaining your head count. And suddenly business says that no, we wanted to break this district into further area. We wanted to include town also. So practically this is not possible in terms of a fact table, right? So how can you do this thing? Because your existing data will not have the breakage to the town, right? So you agree with me. Only the future data will have this town, but my existing data will not have this town details, town breakup. So what I will have to do, I will have to maintain two fact table, one without town column and another with town column. So over here we are introducing one another level, right? So that way it is practically not possible to include include any dimensions in your existing hierarchy. But data vault is giving you one such provision. Either you can include your dimension in any area of this entire hierarchy. You can if you currently have data only till area, you can include street here, and if you don't have state here, you can include state here. But finally what they will do is that they will maintain these data in separately, and they will try to generate a data warehouse out of their own interest. So they'll maintain a superset of dimensions, and they will add any dimensions in the superset wherever they wanted it, and they'll derive their own subset. Does it make sense?
Uh, so you mean to say that on the top of the data vault, we need to create our data mart, right?
Exactly. So you have your OLTP system here. From here, they'll maintain a data vault layer here. In this data vault layer, you will have a superset of fact data and superset of dimensions and so on. And you can keep adding any dimensions or any fact table. You can rearrange anything and everything. And finally, based upon your need, you will have to derive one another OLAP warehouse using here. Okay, so this is the actual way of implementing data vault, and that is how all the advantages they are claiming in the internet can be added. Means that it is a true agile methodology. It's a right way of improving your data mart into data warehouse, and all those things. It's only feasible only when you give a provision to plug in any dimensions wherever you wanted it without able to creating your fact table. I mean, without affecting your fact data.
like your example you have given, right? The district to split into town, right? So that we can do in the dimension level only, because whatever the dimension we have, we
You
can
can
add
do
one
dimension table. You can do dimension table, but think about these two scenarios in the fact table. So currently you have only these two areas and their associated transaction amount, and you wanted to include one another column, which is actually smaller grain than your existing one. So your existing data will get affected, right?
No, my question here is, now we have stored the data at the country level, right? But we want to display the data at the town level, right? So we have a dimension, right? Which dimension we are using the snowflake schema, right? There we can split our granularity level at the dimension, right?
Correct. So you can add a dimension. Okay. So you can introduce a dimension, but how will you include how will you link the fact table with the newly introduced dimension?
No, just a minute. I have one confusion. So what I am trying, right? I am trying my country dimension to district, town, state, right? I am not touching the fact, but you are talking about the fact you want to introduce that new dimension in the fact, right?
Yeah, I got it. See, assume that. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, see, assume that you are introducing a dimension which is part of your existing dimension, which means you are trying to break your star schema into snowflake schema. So you take it down your existing dimension and break down into multiple pieces, or further based upon you can break down multiple pieces. But assume that you are going to add a new dimension which is smaller than your existing one. So you are trying to bring in a new dimension, but again it is going to be a smaller one. But okay, so now I got it. But again, I have not implemented data vault as such, but just trying to give you an idea as such. Okay, so this is the main thing, but I to understand what your concern is. So when you are trying to okay, but think about this scenario. You can break down your existing dimension into you can break down your existing dimension and add a new dimension table and convert your star into snowflake schema. But for this specific schema, you will not be able to for the newly added dimension table, right? You will not be able to get your transaction details, right? So the transaction details available over here only, not for the new one. So this will become almost useless. So, but your data vault is allowing you to maintain the transaction also for the newly introduced broken down schema.
Got it.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that is what your data vault is all about. Okay, so if you, I think with that we have covered up almost everything. Okay, so let me tell you some. I mean, if you have any personalized requirement, right? So in learning certain stuff, or if you need any help in understanding few things, then you can ping me. Okay, so that way it will be. I'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay, so this is one thing which I was planning to take up for a very long. I believe. Can you give a quick review in the group, or in the group as well as over here in the group chat, the meeting Zoom chat itself, like how much you felt it is useful of spending the time? So that will be a good motivation for me to plan for similar meetings in the future.
Recording stopped.
Okay, so if you feel like it is meaningful, just share it across you can share a group here. I mean, you can share your feedback here. I mean, it doesn't need to be very positive always. Okay, so wherever you feel like need corrections, you can definitely you can share your feedback. Okay, so because everyone wanted to grow, so If we don't correct ourselves, then we will not be able to. I could see only 3, but out of 20 people, I could see only 3 feedback, 4 feedback. Okay, so now, as a matter of courtesy, you can share your feedback in the group wherever you are seeing, so that people can be aware of what we are discussing about.
So when we have a this DBT session,
I need to find some find some time. Okay, so I am almost ready with that, but I still need to prepare myself with some other information.
so if we get that if we get some dummy project on the Snowflake, so can we implement, right? You can help us to implement that.
That will be a personalized one. Okay, so if you need any personalized one, then I can we can discuss about it.
So that is will be chargeable, right?
Depends. It depends how long it will take, because I wanted to implement that one on my own first. Okay, so that is why I'm trying to borrow some time.
No, what I'm saying, Ashok, actually I have some code, right? Everything is there. Just we need to, points are there. We need to just do that. Everything is there.
Yeah, again, so I need to, we need to estimate how much hours it takes. If it is going to take 1 hour or 2 hours, right, or less than that, then we can quickly, I can give you some directions and you can take care of your own. And if you
Correct.
need a longer time, then we can discuss about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Yeah, thank you so much. You have my number and you can reach me anytime if you need any requirement of knowledge. Okay. Okay, so we have a few comments, one corrective thing. So real-time thing, right? So real-time knowledge, it will become very, it is, it may have its own impact, right? So that is why we are not taking up any meaningful, any real-time project. So these are some inputs with which you can use it for your real-time project. You'll have to do your own homework. Otherwise, you will not be recollecting all these things. Okay, you may understand all these topics, whatever we discussed, but if you wanted to recollect again and again, then you will have to implement for your project, do the same thing, and then you will be able to understand. Okay. Okay, guys. Okay, so please share your feedback in the group. Thank you so much.